a story.
Everyone is losing their heads over Six the Musical.
Everybody knows that we used to be six. Why?
Variety says 6 is a solid 10. The New York Times proclaims 6 totally rules. Now 6 is coming to the Hollywood Pantages Theater for 5 weeks only, starting May 9th. Get tickets at BroadwayInHollywood.com.
Good day, California and beyond. If you're in Southern California now, we are getting hammered by rain and snow, and for the next 60 minutes, we're going to hammer your earlobes with what ails California and uncover California. You know, Lori, I'm going to introduce I'm Mike Netter. My host is Lori Mills today. Lori, you know what's interesting?
Every day
You're my host. On Saturdays, you're on the air with me. It's interesting, you know, because the snow is going to melt and show the pavement. And we're doing this all the time, kind of melting down what ails Californian politics, aren't we?
Absolutely. And you know what was really strange was driving over the Sepulveda Pass today and my car getting pelted by hail. And as I'm sitting there going, don't ding my car, don't ding my car. But, you know, the sad part about this is we're getting all this snow, we're getting all this rain. Yet California has not built water storage in 40 years. And so most of this water is going to be going out to sea, which is truly a shame.
Yeah, it is. And it's just, and you know, as I was driving to the station today, and I know I made this crack before we went on the air, it started to hail on Washington Boulevard. And I saw that as kind of a sign from God, like a political metaphor. It's hailing on Washington.
Well, we're going to be going through a lot of hail today. Let's talk about that. And for you listeners that are out there, just know that you're going to have an opportunity to call in and talk to our special guest today. And we're going to be talking about crime in California, drug addiction in California, the homeless crisis in California. We have a lot to get to.
And by the way, everybody out there, today is going to be an extra special day. We've got a studio full of people. I've got Silent Stephanie, who never speaks but is always here.
That's because California knows how to party.
That's right. California does know how to party. And we have a special in-studio guest. That in-studio guest, Lori, I'm going to let you introduce, because today what we want you to do, if you have a telephone and you're sitting at home or you're on the road, be safe. Call 1-800-222-5222. Tell us if you've witnessed crime, if you witnessed things happening. Give us your experience with it, especially in Santa Monica. And let's tell them, Lori, why we're focusing on Santa Monica today.
Well, you know, first of all, I was born in Santa Monica. I'm a native Californian. I was born at St. John's Hospital, so it holds a dear place in my heart. Never mind the fact I took a photography class once. I used to go down to the pier. You could get great shots. But while I was running for office, I could say that was the one place I was pretty much accosted. I also met our guest at one of actually it was an event for Sheriff Villanueva. Mm-hmm. And we started talking. He said, "Oh, you're running for Assembly District 42. And I said, yeah. And you know, I'm going to let him tell this story too.
Yeah, don't steal his thunder.
Yeah, I can't steal his thunder.
That's not very polite for an in-studio guest. Can I?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to introduce you all to my friend John Alle, who is with the Santa Monica Coalition. John, welcome to KABC's Uncover California.
Thank you both. It's a pleasure to be here.
John, introduce yourself a little bit to your audience. Tell us your background, because it's pretty extensive there.
Sure. I grew up in the area, played and visited Santa Monica, lived in the area, the city, and have worked in the city in brokerage and now manage and own property. I manage over 500,000 square feet, and that allows me to understand what's happening. How a city is going as far as crime and the economy really determines how a property is going to perform. And after the riots in 2020, I had to get very involved. My building was destroyed, and it allowed me to see what was happening in our downtown, on our promenade, in our parks, in the garages, the total infrastructure.
John, it's interesting when I met with you earlier this week, because you kind of talk managing that much property in Santa Monica with that many diverse businesses in it kind of gave you a finger on the pulse of what's happening before and after those riots took place.
Yeah, and what's crazy about it, is it true, John, that now Santa Monica is considered one of the most dangerous countries in the nation when the 3rd Street Promenade used to be considered the rodeo drive of the beach?
Unfortunately, we've made the top 10 list per the FBI for one of the 10 most dangerous cities in the state. We became frustrated. So a group of residents and business owners formed the Santa Monica Coalition. It's a movement for all those who want to restore public safety in Santa Monica. And we're dissatisfied. We want to address the local humanitarian crisis, the rise of crime, and the lack of responsiveness and accountability from the city leaders. Public safety concerns that are impacting residents, especially tourists who are here in Santa Monica, use Santa Monica as a base for visiting the rest of LA. We're only 8.3 square miles, 94,000 residents, and we're a microcosm for most cities in LA, from Ventura down to San Diego. And we're attracting people in the coalition who have not participated in local politics before. We found that Santa Monica has a low voter turnout, like many cities. But the current system's set up so that every politician in office is selected by a very small group of people who we don't feel represent the real voice and the interests of the people in Santa Monica.
I would agree. A lot of the legislation that has come forward in the last few years from Capitol Democrats with their supermajority has actually made our cities and our state less safe. You've got the bill where they basically lowered penalties for gun and gang enhancements. I can tell you, selling real estate at the time before I ran, I had so many people after those riots move to Ventura County just to feel safe again.
Yeah, it's interesting, John. CBS News, who's a little bit to the left. I'm not going to give them entirely to the left. They're certainly not the LA Times.
Oh, you cussed.
I know. I apologize. The FCC is going to come after me.
You said a bad word.
Bad word. I didn't mean to say LA Times. And I apologize to any listeners that have their children listening to the show, but let's put that down. They rated Santa Monica as last year as one of the most, to your point, one of the most unsafe cities in America. Your chances, 51 out of like 1,000 residents get hit there every day. Your chances are like 1 in 20 of a crime being committed against you.
Well, the statistics are even worse. 3 of 5 residents, business owners, employees know friends or acquaintances in the city that have been victims of robbery or attack, and that's not acceptable. We have a mayor and city that describe our city as one of the most progressive and environmentally correct, but the results have been disastrous for the last 2 years.
That it just appalls me really to think how progressive politics literally has hit the point, and Santa Monica kind of a microcosm of it, if you will, where it's not safe. And I used to love too. And I go.
Well, and again, stop the BS. Progressivism is a cancer. Anything they say that they're doing for the environment, oh my gosh, you guys, look at what we're seeing today. And we'll get into that in the next segment for sure. I think we have a couple minutes left.
We barely have a minute left, but Lori, before we go to the next segment, what's your website?
Our website is uncovercali.com, where you can give hot tips, you can engage with us, you can ask for speakers, and you can donate. We are going to have a merchandise store coming out real soon.
Is my picture going to be on one of those shirts?
I don't know. I want to sell them, Mike. God.
I know. I hope not. But
my
come
gosh.
Halloween, they might sell
Only
pretty good.
one of us is the hot one here. Gosh.
And it's not me, so let's be clear. But what is hot is this radio show on KABC 790 Uncover California.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to Uncover California with Lori Mills and Mike Netter. And our special guest today, John Alle from the Santa Monica Coalition here on KABC AM 790. You know, during the break, I was kind of looking through the computer. I cannot believe the city I was born in, Santa Monica, which was gorgeous at one point, is now one of the most dangerous cities in America. How did this happen, John?
It's happened over a period of time. Why we keep asking the city, why is crime, drug dealing, use of narcotics, homelessness rising year to year when we're spending $30 to $40 million a year? We think it's because of decriminalization of narcotics, efforts to keep law enforcement out of the issue, and the limited available resources monetarily designated to fight the problem go right into the city's general fund. And there's an inability and unwillingness to regulate our public spaces, the parks, the sidewalks, the public garages, the stairwells, even the bathrooms.
Yeah, it's looking like, rape is up, the drug addiction's up, and we know our Capitol Democrats have done everything to put the criminal above the victim, which is a huge problem. Also, it was such a gorgeous little beach town. And the last time I went down there, it looked like a homeless encampment. There's graffiti everywhere. You guys, this is not normal. It is not normal to let our beautiful beach towns go to hell. And what is crazy about this is these environmentalists that want to tax us to save the planet. They're the ones destroying the place. I did beach cleanups when I was a kid. What do we have now? We've got wind farms off the coast. We've got dead whales, dead dolphins coming ashore. Everything that they do is opposite of what their words say. I think climate extremists and the Capitol Democrats are probably the worst on the climate, although they make a lot of money. Mike, what do you think about giving money to the government to handle these problems?
Well, I think it doesn't work. Look, John, I want to go back to you for a second because a lot of articles...
Are you redirecting?
Yes, I'm redirecting it, I call it, because I got a question for John. With a lot of articles out this week about how the government has sunk tons of money into the homeless situation, and the Santa Monica Pier, John, has kind of been a focal point or poster child for the homeless situation in California.
And it's iconic.
Yeah.
It's iconic. Think of all the films that you have the Santa Monica Pier in. How dare they let it go to crap?
We have millions of dollars that are unaccounted for, such that the city has had to hire an outside professional firm to determine how those funds were spent and for what purpose. So the people that are really benefiting from this homeless crisis and the drug crisis are not the victims, but the agencies in the industry themselves. Unfortunately, the resident taxes that are raised, our resources to deal with this are tapped because 95% of these people are coming here from out of state, definitely out of the city. I've even heard conversations on the street in the garages. Some are here straight from Kern Valley State Prison near Delano.
Wow.
And we're the first city on the list of where to go for these inmates that are being released because we have the resources. So they're directed here. But the resources aren't being used properly.
So this compassion that our elected people are having are actually having the opposite effect on the city, endangering their citizens. Now, we had a conversation, John, about the whole needle exchange program they have going down there in Santa Monica. What's going on with the needle exchange?
The city is partially funding a needle exchange program in one of the most famous parks in LA County, Reed Park, right across from St. Monica's Church. next to, has beautiful grassy areas, tennis courts, children's playground, basketball courts that are frequented by locals. And we discovered a needle exchange. The mayor said it's no big deal. Everyone knows about it. The city attorney and the city manager were very quiet, and the city council said they were unaware of it. Much to their benefit, after a lot of wrangling, the city council authorized a letter to be sent to then Sheila Kuehl, our supervisor for the 3rd District, asking her to move it out of the park.
Yeah, John, I do want to emphasize again, this is a live radio
I get a
show,
reaction when I hear her
terms
name.
like LA Times and Sheila Kuehl may get censored. And I can say that maybe if you don't want to. But here's something else that really struck me as interesting about what you just said about the government officials that you have installed in Santa Monica. Isn't it interesting that money for the homeless in these situations goes into outside firms, which take a chunk of the money, and they have to hire an outside firm to find out what happened to the money that they gave to outside firms? Doesn't anybody actually running the Santa Monica government or that is elected, or are they just hiring other people?
And I think they just make money off the problem. I don't care what the problem is, they're making money off it.
Unfortunately, it comes down basically to a poor result. And that's when roughly 3 to 5 people are found dead in our alleyways, on the promenade, and the garages a month. 3 to 5.
3 to 5 dead people a month in Santa Monica garages at the promenade?
Due to overdose, roughly 5 a day in LA.
That's insane.
This is affecting entry-level jobs, our dishwashers, our janitorial crews. It's affecting our tourism. We have, during the summer, we had reservations that we found from 9 of the hotels for 3 to 5 days that were being canceled after 1 or 2 days. And our assumption is, and many of the general managers informed us, that the tourists weren't happy with what they were seeing and what they were smelling and what they were feeling as they walked the streets. The vacancies, the stores closing after 6 p.m. because they felt dangerous. This isn't good. It's not good for the economy. The sales taxes fund our police, our fire department, our paramedics, and street repair. So we've got to deal with this, and we're hoping the city, by declaring a state of emergency, does that. But so far, we need the state of emergency, from what we've heard, is going to indicate federal funds from the government, which will employ perhaps 5 new staff members to connect homeless housing. This
Okay, so
idea
let me
of
ask you
housing
about
first
this.
Just doesn't work.
With this whole housing first thing, are they putting these homeless people and drug addicts up in the hotels where the tourists would be staying? And also, with the homeless problem and the drug addiction problem, I just want to make really clear to everybody, enabling drug addiction does not solve the problem. It's uncompassionate to the drug addict. It's uncompassionate to the residents. It's uncompassionate to the city. Everybody light up these city leaders' phones. Let them know how unhappy you are about this. I'm upset because, again, Santa Monica was a jewel. And you people in Pacific Palisades and Malibu, you better recognize this is heading your way. It's not going to stop in Santa Monica.
Lori, we're being overrun by transient addicts and mentally ill from all over the country. So the lie is that if we build more housing for the poor residents of Santa Monica that really need our help, that's going to help the situation. It's not helping the situation at all. We need more mental facilities to help the drug addicted, the alcohol addicted, and who are mentally ill, unfortunately, and the psychotic people with schizophrenia on the street, on drugs. After 2 or 3 days on the streets, personalities change. They need help. Putting them into housing on their own is not going to work. They're going to need mental and medical treatment, and they're going to need help getting out and being accepted by society and feeling a need to work. And until that happens, Housing First is a disaster.
Yeah, what I've been noticing is a lot of the homeless encampments and things, they're hiding the people now because everybody knows about it. When I was running for the assembly, I had done a lot of research on the homeless and drug addiction. We need to fund mental institutions again. I'm sorry, they cannot live on our streets. There's a program in Austin, Texas that I found called Loaves and Fishes, and what they did was allocate state land. And in this property, they had one area for people trying to get back on their feet. They had another area for the drug addicted where they got treatment. And then there was another section for those that were mentally ill where they had doctor visits. And so with this, they had jobs, they had job training, they had to pay rent, but it gives the homeless and the drug addicted back a sense of self-worth and hope. And so what we're seeing right now is elected legislatures making money on the problem, not dealing with the problem, and destroying this state, which is one of the reasons I ran for office. You guys, this is going to affect all of you. And again, later on in the show, we will have you guys calling in at
1-800-222-5222. Listen, what we want to hear from you, we're going to come back after the break, and John's going to talk more about his coalition and what he's doing as a citizen to make Santa Monica, I'm going to say, a better place, a more livable place.
A safe place.
A place that I'd like to visit again, because be honest with you, John, have trouble going down there anymore, seeing what's happening in the pier. But we want to hear from you. If you have an experience with crime in or out of Santa Monica, call us at 1-800-222-5222. Stay safe out there today. Stay inside. And we want to make it so you can go back out to Santa Monica soon. And in addition to calling in to 1-800-222-5222, they've got to go to the website
UncoverCali.com.
John, what's your website?
It's the Santa Monica Coalition.org.
The Santa Monica Coalition.org. Look.
And you can also follow us on Twitter at Lori Mills, the number 4CA42, and Mike Netter.
At Netter Mike. I put out a couple things on Santa Monica last night. Everyone out there, no matter what you do, we're going to say this a number of times, and I say this all the time in the Media Mat, you've got to participate. Go to a website, go to a Twitter feed, pay attention, contribute if you can. But what I'm going to ask you to do for the next 30 minutes is stay tuned to Uncover California with Lori Mills
and Mike Netter
at KABC
AM 790.
Welcome back, Southern California, to Uncover California with Lori Mills and me. I'm Mike Netter. Lori, it looks like we have a caller here. I think we ought to bring that one in right away.
Yeah, I do. We have a caller on the line from Santa Monica, and it sounds like she has a heck of a story to tell us. Jessica, welcome to Uncover California.
Hi, Lori. Good to hear your voice.
Oh, good to hear yours, too. I'm sitting here looking at notes. It sounds like something terrible happened to you in Santa Monica. Do you want to tell us your story?
Well, it actually didn't happen to me, but as the president of the Residents Association for the Pacific Palisades, which was right up against Santa Monica, on February 4th, there was an attempted rape at the beach at 6:30 p.m. on a Saturday. And from a local woman just like me who likes to run the beach, watch the beach, walk the beach, and exercise at the beach. And the police response was pretty horrific. The dispatcher told her to go home when she called in to say that the guy who had aggressed her and assaulted her was still there and she could see him. She was lucky enough to get away because she had pepper spray. The reason why I think it's really worth discussing is you'd mentioned how, if people in Santa Monica aren't paying attention to the crime rate in Santa Monica, it is going to spill over. And, in Pacific Palisades, we have what we call the Pacific Palisades Task Force on Homelessness. We are actively, every single day for the last 7 years, out there every single day addressing our homeless crisis and trying to find solutions and making sure that our community is safe. We're not seeing that in Santa Monica. In Santa Monica, they have something what they call their CRU unit, and we just discovered, and it's a special unit that will go out and address the homeless on the streets if somebody brings in a call. Well, we found out that, they've been claiming there's social workers with them in this unit, and that's actually not the case. And they're doing it through the fire department. So Santa Monica is really not addressing the issue, and they're not bringing forth the proper resources to assist the problem. We have a host team in LA County, the Homeless Outreach Service Team, ran by the Sheriff's Department, that is known to be the number one leader in homeless outreach services, not just in our county, not just in our country, but in the world. And Santa Monica is not taking advantage of that.
Well, thank you for your call, Jessica. To top off on what you're talking about, I ran for the state assembly in your area. What you were not told is the girl that I ran against who actually won, Jackie Irwin, she voted twice. She missed 2 votes on the homeless, and then she voted that they could live in your neighborhood and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's how she handled the homeless crisis. And to say that Pacific Palisades is going to be exempt from this, unfortunately, the state legislature has passed loitering laws where they're allowed to do this. And thank God for your fire department, and thank God for the committees that you guys have put together to save yourselves. Unfortunately, I remember the days where we had a little bit of craziness in Venice, but now it's in Santa Monica. And again, you will not be exempt from this. Call your legislatures. Get on them. Drug addicts can't live on the streets anymore. I was in Malibu about 3 months ago, and there were homeless people sleeping in the doorways of businesses, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. This problem's not going to stay in Santa Monica, and most people in California, it's pretty much infiltrated each city. What are your thoughts, John?
It's very interesting. About 4 or 5 months ago, our mayor at the time, Sue Himmelrich, went on NPR radio and criticized the city of Malibu for the efforts they were taking to combat the problem, and invited the homeless to come to Santa Monica. Guess what? We've had over a 25% increase in 911 calls for service. Nearly 30% of those calls are about homelessness. The interesting thing is that we were told, and we learned, the police department data only reflects crimes that are reported and logged, not the number of crimes that actually occur. So the updates or revisions or those recategorized are not part of the public database. That's the problem. So a lot of tenants, businesses, they're not reporting the crimes. They don't want their insurance rates to go up, and they don't want customers to be afraid to come in, even though right now 50% of the promenade and downtown, Wilshire Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard, are empty.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was driving by and honestly saw communist symbols spray painted on buildings in Santa Monica, which blew my mind. It's like, this is what it gets you guys. And to listen to Jessica, what she had said, a woman at 6 o'clock at night, an attempted rape in the daytime amongst a bunch of people. You guys, this is not normal. Do not accept it as normal. Do not become desensitized to it. Stand up, call your elected officials, or vote them out of office.
Lori, we have 30% of the homeless on the street are women.
Yeah.
Many of them have told me they've been raped.
I'm sure they have.
They're living scared. And we have about 15% who are veterans in Santa Monica. It's higher than that in LA. The average, the normal weapon that the homeless carry are 6-inch knives, 6-inch cast iron pipe, sawed off fishing rods, just to protect themselves.
Right.
John, Yeah, sorry, Lori. I wanted John tell us a little bit more about the coalition. When people go to the website, what they see and what action they can take too, that your coalition is doing, how they can join you. Because as we saw from the caller there, and we have more callers coming in, I hope to get to them all. It affects not just Santa Monica, but you're doing something here that springs to other communities. So let's talk about your coalition a little bit.
One of the things we're trying to promote is in Santa Monica and throughout LA is a shelter that's open that the police, when they see someone on the street suffering, instead of just taking them to emergency, if they're homeless and not in acute, they don't need acute care. Right now in Santa Monica, there is not a shelter that will accept any homeless between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. So those people languish on the streets. Yes.
I want to make sure I heard that correctly, because actually our next caller is calling in about that.
5 p.m. to 8 a.m. So our city manager came out with a very beautiful brochure and said our police and first responders were moving during the recent rainstorms the homeless into nearby shelters. The nearest nearby shelter that's open is an hour and a half away. The homeless are not going to get on buses when they're high on fentanyl, meth. They're not going to get on a bus. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to go wherever they can. And that's usually in front of someone's store or in a trash can or a dumpster. We're getting 5 fires a month in the alleyways, residential neighborhoods. It's not just limited to downtown. It's going into Midtown Santa Monica now, where we have residents, apartment owners who wake up to fire in the dumpsters 40 yards away from where they live. I'd like to see the LA Times owner use his building, the St. Vincent's Medical Center, 675,000 square feet. The governor at one time discussed buying and leasing it for homeless. The county discussed it last year. He's not doing anything with it. He should step up to the plate. It could be a multifaceted facility for the drug addicted, alcohol addicted, and those that need mental health. We have a hospital. It just needs very little retrofit. Instead, I believe it may turn into more housing, and we'll lose an opportunity at 3rd and Alvarado, close to the intersection of all the freeways, 20 minutes from Santa Monica. We'll lose that opportunity. That's something that could really help today.
And what could people do to make this happen? Is there somewhere they can call and put some pressure on?
It'll be on our website. Former city council person Mitchell Farrell started an initiative campaign, and it didn't really get the tread that we hoped it would. But we're hoping to let people know that this huge site that spans both sides of Alvarado and 3rd can be used, and it's ready to go. And that's something our LA Times publisher could do.
And your website again is, please guys, write this down. It's important.
TheSantaMonicaCoalition.org.
Before we roll to the break here, I'm going to do one of my patented rants. And as long as I've done this, involved as I am, I learn something new every day. So the owner of the LA Times, who's basically funding a newspaper that loses money, owns this hospital that, I know somebody just this last week, I'm not going to drop names here, that met with Karen Bass to talk about this very issue, this very hospital.
Is the person okay?
We'll leave that alone, but that's a separate story. At least they're reaching out across the aisle. Lori has set me up, and there's so much I want to say, but it is live radio. And John, you're telling me, I did not realize this, that the owner, Patrick Sue, I believe is his name?
Correct.
All right. We're going to roll the break. We're going to take this up and another caller afterwards.
Yeah, so stay online, caller. We see you there.
Stay online, stay in tune.
And
whatever you do, keep your ears focused to
Uncover California on KABC AM 790. Welcome back to Uncover California with Lori Mills and Mike Netter here on KBC AM 790. You know what? We've got a call on the line, and it looks real interesting. We're going to take her call right now. Angela from Ventura, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for taking my call, Lori.
Oh, no worries. Tell us your story.
So I have a sister who has been in and out of homelessness, in and out of drugs for many, many years. And so just thinking that she could take care of this on her own, she's been working on that and trying to take care of it and just telling us how difficult it is and really not, just thinking, oh, she's not really trying. Well, I took some time off work about 45 days ago and went with her to this place in Ventura called One Stop. And they're basically just moving people from place to place. A person who is in that drug place does not have the cognitive, sometimes physical skills to be able to do the things that they're asking. And so there's really no hope. But in the 45 days that I've been working with my sister, we've gotten her off a street. We've gotten her in a rehab. She's on a path to recovery, praise God.
Thank God.
And continue to pray. But they're not helping. All of this $70 billion in California to homelessness last year, and all we're getting is more homeless people. People need to focus on the individual and make sure that they're taking care of that. It is very time consuming. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that we're going to get it done overnight, but you have to pay attention to what those individuals need. They're people. They're dying on the streets because we're not doing our freaking jobs.
And it's not normal. And people got to stop treating it that it's normal. John, what would you like to say to Angela about this? Thank you so much for calling, Angela.
Angela, thanks for taking such an active role. This is not a left or right issue, a red or a blue issue. One item that the governor has come up with, which is sort of what you've been handling on your own, but that's Care Court. And Care Court may help in the future. It's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to take time, but it's a two-sided mandate. It makes the counties legally liable to provide services for people who survive at great risk. And it puts the burden on the courts to accept conservatorship. And once a family member helped with a city can take these people off the street and get them the proper medical care, we'll be on our way to some recovery.
Well, and again, with the California legislation that is passed, they've made this near to impossible to do.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because Dr. Drew, and we love Dr. Drew. He's been on my show before. Blasted Newsom this week, John. Just literally tore him up in the press for exactly what you're talking about, where these people, and what our last caller talked about, have mental and substance abuse issues and kind of need help now. This fallacy, we're going to invest, $5 billion to build more housing, and that's going to solve it, isn't solving the problem now.
Yeah, and in the meantime, our government's answer seems to be crack pipes and injection sites, which are just enabling the drug addiction. I had a cousin that was a drug addict, and I can tell you what she did is she went from family member to family member, ripping everybody off so she could support her drug addiction. This is not fixing it.
We have phones that are county issued that every homeless person on drugs has. I've interviewed them. Our team has interviewed them in the garages, our municipal garages of the promenade. And they can call and within 10 minutes have a 2-day supply of meth or fentanyl delivered to them.
That's insane.
And they're out of it for the next 24 hours. And guess what? We've got a new drug on the market. It's not an opioid. So the Narcan isn't necessarily going to help it. It's called xylazine. And it's dangerous. You're out for 30 hours. And it affects your skin and creates lesion. It's awful.
Is this the one that turns people like into zombies and it's like flesh eating?
Yes, it is.
I heard about this. This is like crazy stuff.
It started in Philadelphia. We're seeing it more in Santa Monica now. I've toured the promenade with 2 infectious disease doctors from UCLA, and we've looked at the puddles of urine. We've looked at the feces that are left day and night, not just night, early mornings, during the day. And they've said not only that is dangerous, but they've seen these people on the streets and in the alleys huddled against doorways, and they've said, look, their legs, they're being eaten away.
That is so sad. That is like sad that we're allowing this in our country. What is wrong with everybody? This is absolutely insane. John, you also told me a story about being on the train down in Santa Monica, taking the train that, goes east. What's the train ride like nowadays?
The train is scary. We have 90% of employees in Santa Monica who need public transportation. Many don't have cars, or they share a car with their spouse who may be working on the other side of town. The train, I was challenged to do this. So with a group of 3 or 4 people over 3 months during the summer, we rode the trains, and we thought it would be a 3-day experience, but it turned out to be a 3-month experience. We saw people that were on the train at the beginning and at the end. The E line starts at 7th Street in Santa Monica and ends 7th Street in downtown and ends in Santa Monica. And the same people were on there. They weren't getting off when the trains were supposed to be cleaned. There's a misunderstanding about which law enforcement agency is supposed to be taking care of safety. There is free access. Nobody's paying to get on. And we interviewed several women who were threatened, didn't ever want to ride it again, and they need the train. They go to Santa Monica College, maybe 4 or 5 stops.
Yeah, I wouldn't want my kid taking that train. There's no way.
And it's interesting. The sheriff told us 5,500 people use our metro line throughout the county. 5,500 people as a shelter on wheels. We saw that just from the line from 7th Street to Santa Monica. And you know what, Lori? Only one person from Metro on the board reached out. Only one.
One person from that board reached back out to you. Who? We're paying these people.
Well, and I want to jump in here because what I find absolutely, again, appalling and disgusting are the money cabal, if you will, the amount of money that's sunk into this problem. There's about 807 people away in Santa Monica, give or take, let's say around 900 that are homeless, all right?
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's way above the percentage of L.A. is normal. Go ahead, John.
We didn't believe that. So last year we did.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
We did our own survey. We just didn't believe that the homeless had gone down to 807. So one night in November, we put together a team of 16. Night in November, it was 45 degrees at 12 midnight. And we stayed out until 6 a.m. And it took us longer because we were 16 as opposed to maybe 50 or 70 that the city is able to get for their own counts. We counted 2,100
Unbelievable.
homeless.
So just the government count, which I looked at, is underestimated by 120%. I can barely do the math in my head. That is, and I'm sorry to jump in, John, but I am so tired of the government lying and trying to cover up, yet declaring a state of emergency in its constant circle of requesting more funds to proliferate a problem with drugs and lack of shelters, etc.
And we need to get rid of these career politicians that are in there and they're making money. They go in broke and they leave millionaires. Gee, wonder why. Looks like we have one more caller coming in. Dennis from Torrance. This is Lori Mills. Welcome to Uncover California.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Dennis, we have about a minute left.
Yeah,
Tell
we got
us.
a real short time left. Give us your question, statement.
The real reason California won't solve or hasn't solved the homeless epidemic and affordable crisis within the state is our sanctuary status for illegal aliens.
Yeah, that's a huge problem.
That is the major problem, which is why every politician that tried to resolve this situation has failed, including Karen Bass. She also will fail. You don't fix poverty by adding hundreds of thousands more poverty from other countries.
Dennis,
Right on.
love your statement. Absolutely correct. We're going to keep rolling. Thank you for calling in. Dennis has a point. There's a number of things that California does, inviting more people to come here who don't have resources.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't hear, go back and listen to our podcast that was on I believe it was the 4th. We had Brandon Judd on here, who was the president of Border Patrol. This trafficking of human beings is a huge problem in our state. It's a huge problem in our country. And yes, it is definitely adding to the homeless crisis.
And as we roll towards the end here, John, once again, tell us about your website and how people could get involved.
Volunteers are welcome. We've set up sites at farmers markets, cold calling, trying to raise awareness. It's thesantamonicacoalition.org. And we have about 500 people that have signed up willing to help. And we're getting started and moving forward.
The Santa Monica
Coalition.org.
Hey, I'm slow. Okay,
well, that's why you have me here. You need to quick at the thought blonde.
I'm at Netter Mike. Lori, I want to take a second here before we roll to end. We're going to do something very special. Every week we do something special, but in a couple weeks, what are we doing?
Oh, well, we are going to be taking the show live to the California GOP convention. We're diving into the California Republican convention. We're going to interview people. We're going to take you guys inside so you can see what it's like.
That's right. So, everyone out there, next week, we are back on the air thanks to special donations.
Special donor. Thank you so much. And again, we are listener supported. We need people like you to keep us on air. But guess what? You're stuck with us for a while.
That's right. And I want to tell everybody out there that we are the voice of the people. And remember, democracy is a participation sport. And you heard me rant and rave last week, and you'll hear me rant and rave on Twitter and everywhere else. You have to vote. You have to participate. Remember, things like Santa Monica, the elections are how long?
Oh,
1
gosh.
year off.
Yeah,
1
next
year.
March is the primaries. They moved it up on us, guys. So
And for many of these primaries, which are nonpartisan, a 50% plus one gets again the same bad people elected.
yes, we don't have primaries, guys. We have 2 general elections. So tune in next week to KABC AM 790 on Uncover California with Lori Mills, Mike Netter, and John. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Remember, talk radio evolves, stay tuned all week long. Uncover California, we'll be back.
Former Navy SEAL Sean Ryan shares real stories from real people from all walks of life on The Sean Ryan Show.
This one's about my friend, call sign Ninja.
So there was all these things that I wanted to do in the Army. I was like, this is it. In the Army, you do roads and airfields. And they said, well, we'll take a test and see where you fall. I was like, yeah, but if I could do that and all this stuff too, drive tanks, jump out of planes.
Do you guys have a sampler platter?
Right.
The Sean Ryan Show on YouTube or wherever you listen.